I have a confession. For most of my adult life, I built myself very deliberately. I looked around at what success was supposed to look like for a woman, a professional, an academic, a mother, and I chose success. And I achieved success. I actually did it. The career, the credentials, the high-functioning woman who handled things and produced things and showed up for the people who needed her. I built that woman on purpose. I believed my career path would lead to fulfilling my vocation. I'd even say that my career felt like a calling for me. So my confession is this. This version of myself doesn't fit anymore. Not because she was wrong and not because I was tricked into building her, but because I built her for a version of my life that I've now outgrown. Over the course of my 40s, I've realized that the woman I chose to become was a starting point. Along the way, I've picked up skills, gifts, new understanding and experience. And with these things I've so gratefully acquired along the way, I now have a strong foundation for the next version of myself. The me of my 20s and 30s served me well. My identities as a professor, a single mother, and a community leader were developed through much learning and experience. And today, we'll talk about what it means when you reach the point where it's time to deliberately let our chosen identities go. You're listening to the Midlife Plot Twist Podcast, and this is episode 26. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well today and that your week is off to a great start. I'd like to begin today's episode by sharing that this podcast now has over 100 followers. Wow. Considering that in the beginning, I thought I'd just put out 10 episodes and likely only have a few followers who consisted of my friends and family. All I can say is wow. We're now 26 episodes in with over 100 followers, and I'm so grateful to everyone who chose to click that follow button. Thank you so much for listening to what's going on in my tiny little corner of the podcast sphere. I also want to update you on where I'm at with the career transition. I'll also hopefully get my mouth to work properly. The short of it is that I'm still in between things right now, which is why which is why I'm not reporting on this more, but I'm also in the middle of a series. But because I'm still in between, I don't feel like I have a lot to share, but I have to say that I'm still on sick leave from my position, and while on leave, I'm taking my time with soul searching on what I need and want for myself in this next chapter following my plot twist. I don't want to look back with regret and find myself having made a poor decision. So things are still unfolding over here. This time that I've been off work on leave has reinforced for me that big life changes don't always come in one clear, decisive moment where you make the decision, announce it, and move on. The process can be much slower. For me, at least in this instance. And at first that was very, very uncomfortable. It still is uncomfortable, to be honest. I've felt a lot of pressure to figure out what I was going to do about my career. And now I just feel like I'm giving the situation due diligence. So what I can share at this point is that I am in the middle of this transition, but now I'm closer to the end of it than the beginning. I'm almost done writing my plot twist and just about ready to share it. And it doesn't have a clean ending yet. But I suspect that another few weeks though, and I will be starting a new season of the Midlife Plot Twist podcast. So stay tuned for that. This episode, though, is episode 3 in a 5-part series on midlife reclamation. So if you've been with us for the last 2 episodes, here's where we're at. In episode 1 of the series, which is episode 24 of the podcast, or is it episode 23? You'll have to look. It's 23 or 24. I should have checked that before I started recording. In that episode, we talked about the wake-up call moment where you realize you can't keep doing whatever it is that you're doing and like living your life in a certain way or within a certain identity or that sort of thing. And we talked about how that moment of recognition is a signal that your wise inner self is trying to get your attention. Something new is on the horizon for you, and it's time to look in that direction. In episode 2, we went back in time to excavate parts of the woman we were before our 40s by looking at what parts of ourselves we traded for things like stability, fulfilling a particular role or norm or ideal. These parts we traded in might be our creativity, our voice, our playfulness, or our friendships. Now in midlife, some of these traded in parts might be signaling to you that it's time to consider bringing them back. Now here at episode 3 of the 5-part Midlife Reclamation series, we're at the hinge point of the series because now that we've looked back at what we traded in and buried, we're going to look at what we might presently need to put down or to let go of. Some of what we traded back in our 20s and 30s is actually good stuff. We want some of that stuff back to explore with the wisdom, the resources, and abilities that we've developed since we traded them in. We'll need to make space in the present for these old/new aspects of ourselves. And we have to consider the identities we chose, the ones we built with intention and real effort. These are self-concepts that we worked hard for and that earned us something. Maybe it's respect or security or a sense of belonging or success. Now in our 40s or in midlife, some of these self-concepts or identities have stopped fitting because we've grown. It's really something to realize that it's possible and maybe even probable to outgrow even the things that we were most proud of building. As I said in the introduction, I chose my career path to becoming a professor because it felt like a calling for me. Like, that's a big deal. Over the course of my time as a graduate student, working towards becoming a professor, and as a professor, the identity I built was made up of a new set of identity traits that supported my success in this career path. I'll give you a couple of examples. Hopefully that will illustrate what I mean and that I think just might resonate with you. So first, there is the identity or identity trait of the high achiever. For me, achievement feels like self-expression or like proof of my worth and how I built my entire sense of self around output, excellence, and always doing more. This was truly thrilling until it wasn't. Burnout and now chronic illness woke me up to realize that the feeling of success that I was chasing didn't actually feel like success anymore. When I was chatting with a friend recently, she raised a really important question that I had never considered before. And that was, why am I doing all of this when I don't need to be doing all of this? After thinking about that for a while, and to be honest, I'm still thinking about it, then it was important for me to ask myself, if I choose not to be a high achiever anymore, then what am I? I want to ask myself this question. without falling into the trap of binary or some kind of black and white thinking that I would instead just be the opposite. Like, I don't know what the opposite of high achiever is like. I think of something like lazy or unmotivated or uninspired or something negative like that. Where is the fulfilling middle ground for me if I take my foot off the gas of being the high achiever to the detriment of my health, life balance, and fulfillment? And I'm working on this one still. Who am I if not a high achiever? When I think back to the previous episode, one of the parts of myself that I traded in my early 30s was the daydreamer. I traded in the daydreamer in me for the analytical one, the logical one, the concrete, practical, pragmatic one. I'm now interested in bringing her back, and she stands in contrast to the high achiever in me because she appreciates having just time and space to just be rather than do all the time. It's like a song. Do. And to imagine and to explore. Next, she sounds so good to me right now. Next, there is the strong woman identity. Oh, how many times I have heard in my life, "You're so strong, Jen." And I am. And I am so grateful for my strength, and I'm grateful for the people who recognize that in me. This strong woman, though, is tired. I'm tired of being the strong one. For me, the identity of being a strong person is a version of me who lives constantly in survival mode because she has moved through so many big and challenging life circumstances over and over again, to be honest. Being the strong woman means that I'm not one to really be checked in on because people are confident that I'll get through anything, and I will. But it's a lonely place to be. I've learned, though, in my 40s that being the strong one is not just built on making it through hardships or having made it through hardships, but on my inability to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. It's built on my long-standing assumption that no one can or wants to help me. And it's built on the assumption that I am not safe if I allow myself to be vulnerable. And I want to be vulnerable. I want to ask for help when it's important. I want to trust that people love and care about me enough that they want to be there for me as I hope to be there for them. So like I said previously, if I'm making space by letting go of my identity as a strong woman, who and what am I choosing instead? And what of myself have I traded in? Or what part of myself have I traded in that I can bring back and reclaim in its place? Who did I trade in to become the strong woman, in other words? Well, I think one version or aspect of myself was the trusting one. At one time in my life, I did trust the people around me and was someone who chose to see the good and believe in most people that I would encounter. I wasn't scared to ask for help then and didn't see doing so as a failure because I couldn't do it myself. After having shared these examples, I wonder what parts of you might you consider as something you're able to let go of at this midpoint in your life? And who or what parts of yourself did you dig up in the excavation exercise from the previous episode? That part or those parts you're reclaiming will start to have some room as you let go of identities that no longer serve you as they once did. So here I am in my 40s and not far from being 50. And that's fine. And I'm very slowly figuring out what I value and want to value at this middle stage or midlife stage of my life. and build new aspects of my identity around that. I'll be honest with you that it's disorienting, or it can be disorienting, because when you choose an identity that deliberately, like I did when I chose to become a professor, letting it go can feel like losing yourself, even when you're the one choosing to release it. Choosing a new identity can also feel disingenuous at times. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. But it's not. It's empowering, I think. Now, I need to say something that often gets skipped over too quickly in conversations like this one about our identity, becoming someone new or trying something new in our midlife and that sort of thing, chasing after goals and empowerment. Even when you are the one choosing to let go, even when it's completely your decision made with full clarity, it still involves grief. Our identities have histories and relationships woven through them. They are a version of ourselves that worked really hard and believed in what we were building, be it a career, a family, a community, or what have you. And when we start to release that, there's a real mourning associated with it. So I don't want to skip over this. We're allowed to grieve an identity that we outgrew, and I think we should. Even if it was done on purpose, like even if we outgrew or let go on purpose, even when leaving it behind is absolutely the right thing for us to do. These two things can be true at the same time, that we can release consciously or with intent and grieve at the same time. So here is what I want to leave you with today. Midlife reclamation isn't about blowing up your life or rejecting everything you've built or everyone you've been. It's about getting really honest with yourself about which identities you're still inhabiting because they genuinely fit who you are, and which ones you're holding on to out of habit, out of pride, out of fear of who you'd be without them. Two identities come strongly to mind when I say this: the identity of wife or partner, and the identity of a chosen career. In the example of shedding the identity of wife or partner, it is so scary to think of who you are just as you, when you've been Mrs. So-and-so for so long, or the partner of so-and-so for decades. It's hard to imagine this other person not being part of your identity because they've been such a key part of it for so long, co-creating who you are. Same with the career identity. Who am I if not a professor? Who are you if not a therapist or an accountant or a public servant or civil servant? Here we can keep in mind that we choose these identities once and we can choose differently again. I have a reflection for you for this week. What is one identity you built on purpose that you can feel yourself outgrowing? What did it give you when it fit? And what is it costing you now that it doesn't? So sit with that for a bit this week. Next week, we get to the part of the series I think you might be waiting to hear about, which is where we stop excavating what we want to reclaim and stop exploring what it is we've outgrown today, because having done that, we can now start building. What might a life actually look like when it's designed around who you are now, instead of who you decided to be at 25 or 33? And with that, I will say that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, please follow the show on whatever platform you're using to listen, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podbean or wherever. Also, come and find my new account on Threads. It's under the same handle as everywhere, Midlife Plot Twist Podcast. Come follow me on Instagram. The account is at Midlife Plot Twist Podcast. And if you'd like to, you can email me anytime My email is midlifeplottwistpodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, be well.